Thank you very much for this wonderful conference. It's a pleasure to have met all of you. Western governments have welcomed Muslims to live amongst their citizens, and were given equal rights. However, they have neglected to learn what's written about non-Muslims in Muslim scriptures. The West was appalled by the fatwa against Salman Rushdie. But what they did not know was that there are other fatwas too that were against their own non-Muslim citizens through jihad and dhimmitude. It's part of Muslim Sharia law. A lot of people don't know what a fatwa of death means. It is a call to murder of someone by vigilante street justice. That is accepted under Sharia law. There are three kinds of murders under Sharia that are where a Muslim, any Muslim who murders under three conditions is forgiven. And these three conditions are killing of an apostate, killing of an adulterer, and a highway robber. The kind of street vigilante justice gives a lot of power to Muslim enforcers of Sharia. You don't need a Sharia state to do this kind of vigilante street justice. You can only have this fatwa, and it could be in London. Salman Rushdie walking down the street, a Muslim will do it, and he will know that he is forgiven by God and by his Muslim Sharia state for doing that. That kind of, again, this gives a lot of power to Muslims wherever they are. I grew up as a Muslim in Cairo, Egypt, and my childhood, I spent about 5 years of my childhood in Gaza. And I went to Gaza elementary schools, where we learned hatred, vengeance, and retaliation. Peace was never taught to us as an objective in school. It was never an option, really. Jihad and conquering ideology was our pride. It was in our songs. It was in our poetry. I'm sure not all Muslim countries are like that, but I lived in the center of jihad, really, against Israel. And I know what intense indoctrination for jihad means. Islamists are trying to push the envelope in the West right now. For example, last September, on September 9th, there was a parade in New York City. In that parade, 3 days before the 6th anniversary of 9/11, that was a Muslim parade, and you would think 3 days before 9/11, they have to be so gracious to New Yorkers to show them that they are supporting them. However, they were carrying signs saying the following: Muslims are against democracy and Western values, ban the Talmud, and the Holocaust is a hoax. They were selling books on jihad. On the cover of the book, it said jihad, and next to it was an AK-47 on the cover, meaning jihad is violence. This comes from the same people who are complaining of Islamophobia. And lately, demands in America for special foot-level faucets so Muslims can pray, wash their feet before prayers. They wanted that in public schools in America. They were demanding it in some airports to accommodate Muslims, and some businesses and government offices. Let me tell you, I've lived in the Middle East for 30 years, and I have never seen foot-level faucets in any public school in Egypt, in any businesses, or in Cairo airport. However, they want that in America. They want to push Wahhabi-style radical Islam in America. just because they don't know. So let's go to the extreme. And this is what the West doesn't understand, is they are trying to bring to the West more radical philosophy than in many other Muslim countries. And this is something that the West need to understand. It would be very naive to deny that Muslims do not have a political agenda in Europe or in America or in any Australia. This would be really naive, because the agenda of Muslims is clear. They say it loud and clear. Just recently, Sheikh Qaradawi said, we will take over Rome, we will take over England, we'll take over America. They say it loud and clear in many mosques. So why aren't you getting it? I don't understand. Why are we sitting saying, oh, do they have an agenda or you don't have an agenda? They do have an agenda, and they already told it to you. So this is their agenda. They want to Islamize the world. They want to Islamize Europe and hopefully America next. When I visited Egypt in 2001, the first thing, I met an old friend in Egypt who hasn't seen me since I was a teenager. First thing he said is, don't you know we already took over Europe? Congratulations. Aren't you going to help us take over America? That's what they perceived. I was in America because I want to take over America. We have to learn from the history of Islam. And Egypt was a Christian nation in the 7th century. In a few decades, it was taken over, and its language was changed to Arabic, and its religion changed to Islam. And its beautiful ancient Egyptian history was called Jahiliyyah history, history of the decade of ignorance. That's how Islam viewed the ancient Egyptian history. And Europe have to have a lesson from what happened to other countries before. One day, we could see a very large Muslim population congregating in Paris, in England, and we can see a Kosovo happen in France. We could see a Chechnya in England. Easy, in just a few decades. And you have to prepare yourselves for that. Because tolerance of Islamists is no longer a sign of compassion. It's not a sign of sophistication or civilization. It's really gross negligence. I grew up hearing Friday sermons in Egypt. And one time I visited a Christian Coptic friend of mine, and she lived next door to a mosque. And we heard the following: may God destroy the Jews and the infidels, the enemies of God. We are not to befriend them or make treaties with them. We also heard the worshipers saying amen. I heard this kind of cursing prayers all my life. And believe it or not, if you grow up with cursing prayers, it can feel and sound normal and holy and good, because they're evil. They deserve our curses. That's how I felt. And the West have to understand that this hate speech is against them in their own country. They say Islam is a religion of peace, a lot of Muslims. But at the same time, they hold their, they call their jihadists our holy warriors, our jihadists. So there is a contradiction in Islam. You see this dual thinking. They can easily accommodate two opposite ideas in one sentence and swear by them. This is so opposite and different from the way the Western thinking is very different. It's very logical. But in Islam, we've learned to accommodate two opposing ideas and accept them at the same time, because the Quran said that. And we would sit and swear in front of Westerners that jihad doesn't mean a holy war. Jihad is an inner struggle, self-analysis. They were saying that in American TV after 9/11. And they're right, because 3% only, when the word jihad is mentioned in the Quran, only 3% of the time it does not mean killing. Now, however, 97% of the time when jihad is mentioned in the Quran, it means violence and murder and humiliation and subjugation. This is the dual thinking. I swear jihad does not mean violence. Yes, it's 3%. And I swear it means violence. Yes, it's 97%. And this is the kind of dual thinking that we have very accommodated very comfortably in our psychology. Under Sharia Islamic law, the kafir is exempt, the Khalifa. The Khalifa means the Muslim leader is exempt from hudud, or being punished under all hudud laws. Hudud laws is murder, sexual violations, major. The hudud laws are the most serious laws. And the Muslim Khalifa is exempt from them.
Okay.
And they say...
One more minute.
Yeah, and they say Islam Sharia is comparable with democracy. We have to understand that Sharia Islamic law violates human rights. And violating human rights is not negotiable, not even in the name of Allah. Human rights should be above, in my opinion, religion. It's religion that has to pass the litmus test of human rights, and not human rights have to pass the litmus test of religion. And that is why European governments have to start judging the Muslim scriptures according to their human rights, respect of human rights. We should not wait for them to please remove and don't go by your verses that are against human rights. We should not accept it. European governments should not accept it because it's in violation of the human rights of European citizens. Thank you very much.